The Israeli war cabinet has officially accepted the Gaza occupation, although now I heard Netanyahu saying it's not an occupation, so now I don't know what to think. We'll cover the recent tweet Netanyahu said that I've seen, and we have a little bit more information about how this occupation or not occupation will look like. And of course, we have commentary from around the world, or sort of reactions from around the world. And surprise, surprise, they are not supportive of this. Welcome to the reality show. Joining me today are Michael Kaufman and ER Reichel. Thank you guys for joining me. And Michael was on yesterday, which we sort of talked about the same thing. So I'll jump to ER first. Yeah, what was your general sort of, what were you thinking since Tuesday when it was the first time we sort of heard about it? And yeah, what do you make of the decision?
Well, whenever I hear such statements, I don't rush to conclusions. My premise in this context is that the Israelis, the leadership kind of knows what is ought to be done. At least some parts of the leadership, they know they have to take over Gaza. They know this is the only way to end this, and yet I don't think they are brave enough. So whenever I hear the news like Israel is going to take over Gaza, blah blah blah, I always look at it in a kind of a suspicious way with a grain of salt. And and after the initial news articles with the rumors about this going on, and then the Israeli cabinet, which is like the entity in the government that basically decides what the military should do, statements, I'm now still in the same holding the same ambiguity about the situation because there are conflicting statements. So I've heard that Israel decided to take over Gaza. Then I heard it's only Gaza City. Then I've heard that it's actually a part of the plan to take over Gaza. Then Netanyahu says that he's going to control Gaza militarily and have an independent regime that is not the Palestinian authorities and is not Hamas. And then I ask myself, if Netanyahu explicitly says the Palestinian Authority is not suitable to control Gaza, which they are not, why does Netanyahu allows them to control Judea and Samaria, Arab cities in Judea and Samaria? And the bottom line with all this confusion, it seems, oh, of course, I forgot. And then I hear a statement, I think from Netanyahu saying, oh, this decision is not final. We're still open to negotiation, as if it is another way to pressure Hamas for a deal. So, as I said, this is it goes all the way. Now, what I think is going to happen, I think the cabinet, the part of the government that controls the military, did confirm a plan to take over Gaza City. And this plan implies a strategy of indeed taking over Gaza militarily. I think they are willing to have some sort of an Arab militia to de facto run the place, which is a wrong decision. I think they're still afraid of running this business to make sure this will never happen again, for real. And I don't even know if the strategy to take over Gaza will actually happen, because Israel does not have the moral pride it should have in order to succeed in such a hard task, given the current circumstances and the way Israel has chosen to run this war.
Yeah, maybe I can bring up sort of the sort of what was adopted by the cabinet was this five number sort of resolution, which is calling, or sort of like five principles for ending the war. And it's calling for disarming of Hamas, which I think that sounds good. The return of all hostages, both living and deceased, which, if you take control of all of Gaza, I think is sort of like automatic. Demilitarization of the Gaza Strip, of course, you have to do that. Israeli security control over the Gaza Strip. And finally, establishment of an alternative civilian administration, which is neither Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority. And this is, I think, the point you were talking about, ER. But also, I think there is like a separate thing of Netanyahu understands why Hamas and the Palestinian Authority cannot handle the Palestinian, handle sort of governing the Palestinian population. It's because they are radicalized and they are not doing anything about it. And on the yesterday's show, Michael was on. We had Netanyahu on Fox saying something like, we'll give this to the Arab group, to the Arab parties that are able to de-radicalize the Palestinian population. And my question for you, well, I guess it's the same question, so maybe you don't have to say, but yeah, what kind of group is this? And then sort of like separately, what do you make of this five? It's technically it's not like a 5-step plan, but sort of like 5 principles of what to do.
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, first of all, it's unclear to me how it differs materially or in fact for what they've been doing, which is taking over parts of Gaza. I think they say they control 75 to 80% of Gaza as it is. There's about, I think, an estimated 1 million people in Gaza City, so they're going to all be pushed probably south. And I'm not really sure what the big the real facts of why does this change? I mean, we've gone into Khan Yunis, we've gone into a lot of other cities. Why? So we have to go into Gaza City. I assume they think the hostages are there or somewhere around there. I'm sure they know where some of the hostages at least are and some of the bodies. I think this is a lot of pomp and circumstance. If you already control 75% of Gaza militarily, what real fundamental difference does it make? If your goal is to eliminate Hamas, what fundamental difference? How else could you achieve that goal than taking over the remaining 25%? Because clearly Hamas is holed up in an area that Israel is not yet, and so I don't see this as being fundamentally different from an acknowledgement that the 75% of Gaza that we do not control that we control doesn't include Hamas, and we have to eradicate Hamas. This ridiculous notion that the hostages, some of whom are clearly starving to death, are going to die because of this, is the reason I call it ridiculous. Is they might be killed because of what's going on, but they are being killed. I mean, they've been killed. 20 plus of the hostages. There's only 20 live hostages left out of the 49 or so, and they're being killed. And what's clear is that everything we've done so far has not led to the release of this final set of hostages. So I just don't understand what the alternative is here. Hamas is not going to surrender. They are a militant group that wants to go visit Allah. They want to move to their heaven with their 72 virgins each, and they're not going to surrender. And the misery of the Palestinian people is exactly their ace in the hole. The more misery the Palestinians will endure at the hands of the evil Israel, the stupider the world becomes, except for Trump and Vance. And we get all this crap going on. Now, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that understand that this is, of course, what you have to do. But I just think this is a lot of talk. I think this is a lot of pomp and circumstance. And the last point I'll make is going door to door in Gaza City, where the Hamas terrorists are, is going to lead to a lot more deaths of young Israeli soldiers. And I think that's unacceptable. And I do think you've got to eradicate Hamas. And there's a much better way to eradicate Hamas than doing door-to-door service if you're willing to lose Palestinian innocent, quote unquote, civilians. And the answer is you bomb the heck out of them. And that's what you do. And you have enough intelligence now to know approximately where the hostages are, but you will take a chance. But you cannot put more Israeli lives, soldiers' lives at risk. We've almost 500 dead Israeli soldiers from Gaza already. It's ridiculous. So I think this whole thing is a lot of staging. I think this is just a natural continuation of a war that you cannot win until you completely eradicate this horrible cancer that exists on Israel's border.
Iyar, you wanted to jump in?
Can you show the map I sent you?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Okay, so this is a map of Gaza. Gaza is circled mostly in blue. The yellow area is the areas, the Israeli towns and cities and villages that are close to Gaza that have been evacuated. The red line is wherever they managed to get in October 7th. Now let's look inside Gaza. So the bluish, purplish area is an area that IDF controls. The green areas are areas that IDF doesn't really control, has been there, went away, things like that. Now, the most interesting part, it is the red zone. Now, this is up north, it's Gaza City. Down south is the Mawasi and Dir el-Balach. And there are also areas, notice, in the southeast part, which are like, we're surrounding those areas. Now, militarily speaking, this is extremely easy to surrender those areas. I'd like to remind you that in 1967, Israel took over the Sinai Peninsula, the Golan Heights, and Judea and Samaria in 6 days. And compare those areas to the red areas. This is like comparing Earth to the sun. I'm exaggerating, but figuratively speaking, it's like a magnitude of 100 times larger areas, perhaps even more. And we're talking about 2 years versus 6 days. Why am I doing this comparison? The reason we are taking so long and losing so much soldiers, we lost over 400 soldiers in Gaza since we entered, not since October 7th, but afterwards, since we entered, 454 Israeli men we lost in Gaza fighting to get the blue zone. And the reason, once again, is morality. We cannot say that the people, unfortunately, Israel does not allow itself to say that the people in Gaza deserve all the death and destruction that will come from Israel defending themselves and removing Palestineism rule over Gaza, which is a movement aimed to destroy Israel and tried. And since that, we are not fighting in Gaza in the proper way. We're doing it tit for tat. We're doing it door to door. We're feeding our enemy. This is extremely easy to encircle those areas, lay a siege, and bomb them until they hand out the weapons. That's, by the way, unconditional surrender. They literally stand in line, pick up all the weapons from the hiding, and giving it to IDF officer. That's what they have to do. And they know where the weapons are. It's very easy to perform unconditional surrender when you're in such a situation. The thing is, we keep feeding them, and we don't want a high death toll because we cannot take ownership over our action and say this is moral. Self-defense against evil is moral, and those people have to pay a price for what they did. And also the Palestinian civilians, they commit a horrible crime of giving moral sanction to Palestinism, of allowing whoever rules Gaza, which is Hamas and other militias, who all of them wants to destroy Israel, they allow them to do so. So since Israel is trying to appease the world that is demanding Israel to self-sacrifice, Israel thinks they can play this game. Oh, we only do a little bit of self-sacrifice and still try to win evil. And when we take over Gaza, we will install a regime that is not us. All those things, we do that, and it's prolonging the war. Instead of taking 2 weeks, it's taking 2 years. and we're losing soldiers, and there is a huge rise in anti-Semitism because this war is a great source for Jew haters and their blood libels to draw Israel as some sort of a devil. And we're losing time, we're losing resources. The people in Israel are getting sick and tired of this situation. And this is a horrible price to pay. And it took us almost 2 years to get a decision to take over those tiny pink areas. And even then, we're doing it with the whole plan revolved around, okay, how we give them humanitarian aid during the war and how we make sure there will be no casualties for that side. Like, how do you expect to win a war in this way? And I'm not even starting to talk about the hostages. And Michael talked about it. And I want to say again, this is a very important goal. This is very important that Israel will retrieve the hostages, rescue the living hostages, find the bodies. They deserve a proper burial, and the living hostages deserve to end this hell and return to their families. The end does not justify evil means. And sacrificing our soldiers is evil means. And feeding the kidnappers and feeding the rapists and feeding their supporters on the way to get the hostages is an evil means, and it's just unacceptable. So we need to start doing the right thing and just laying a siege on whatever remains under Hamas control or under Palestinian control. No food, no water, no gas, no electricity, strict and hard bombardments until they wave the white flag, hand over any weaponry remains in Gaza, and accept Israeli rule. There is no other way, and we keep paying a horrible price as long as we're doing this mishmash game to appease the Western world. This is just, this is a scandal. This is horrible.
Yeah, and talking about the hostages, from the recent poll when it comes to the Palestinians, which was in May, there was a question asked. Some say that if Hamas releases Israeli detainees, the war will stop and Israel will withdraw from the Gaza Strip. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? 60% of Gazans disagree with this statement. And I think 70 to 80% of overall Palestinians, including the ones living in Arab cities in Judea and Samaria, are disagreeing with this statement. So you have a population that is saying, no, we are actually part of Hamas and we will not give back the hostages because like Palestinians understand more than Israel that they are fighting the people, not just the army. Israel still thinks it's just fighting Hamas. Palestinians understand they are fighting, they are part of Hamas, they are part of this culture, and they are fighting actively against Israel. So they have this, yet Prime Minister Netanyahu has recently said, and I think this is literally 2 hours ago, or maybe even an hour ago, on X he said, "We are not going to occupy Gaza. We are going to free Gaza from Hamas. Gaza will be demilitarized and a peaceful civilian administration will be established, one that is not the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas, and not any other terrorist organization. This will help free our hostages and ensure Gaza does not pose a threat to Israel in the future." And I mean, to go to you, yeah, again, what is this idea of like freeing Gaza from Hamas? Like he is actively spreading propaganda against Israel. He is actively helping the enemies of Israel basically say, no, Palestinians are these nice people that they don't have anything to do with Hamas. They don't, they are basically innocent. How can you say that and then say you're trying to like minimize civilian casualties, or then try to justify yourself when civilian casualties happen, right? If you say Palestinians are separate from Hamas, then every single death you are causing them to innocent Palestinians, so-called innocent Palestinians, which even Netanyahu seems to agree with.
Let's start with defining the terms, okay? The people in the Gaza Strip and Judea and Samaria, okay, those called Palestinians, let's break down their collective, quote unquote, identity. So the race, the ethnic group is Arabic. They're of Arab descent. Egyptians, Saudi Arabians, Jordanians, Syrians, Lebanese, basically Ottoman Empire used to be part of it, etc., etc. Their religion is Islam. There are no non-Muslim people who define themselves as Palestinians in the region. There used to be Christian Palestinians, and the Muslim Palestinians took care of them not existing anymore, either fled or killed. And their political ideology, which is the strongest part of our identity, is Palestinism. Now, before explaining Palestinism, the reason I'm stressing that and defining that is because the phenomenon with the Palestinians is that the world treats them as an ethnic group and not as an ideological movement. And the difference between Arabs and Palestinians is like the difference between Germans and Nazis. Okay? So when people have a problem with Palestinians, they're being criticized as if they are racist against Arabs, because Palestinism is drawn as an ethnicity. And the thing is, the Israeli leadership is following those broken concepts and broken definitions, and they talk about separating Palestinians and Hamas. And around the world say, oh, we got to destroy Hamas and we're taking care of the Palestinians. So this confusion and error is, first of all, deliberate and was created by the enemies of Israel, and Israel is buying it. And what we should have say is Palestinism is an ideology, it's a political movement. It is a movement that its meaning is to destroy Israel, to get rid of the Jews, and their strongest weapon is the broken morality of the Western world, which is a morality that neglects justice and replaces it with mercy. So Palestinism is the ideology saying, okay, you're a part of a political movement that, and an ideology that tells you, okay, listen, give up your life, make sure your life will be the worst thing on earth, make sure it will be portrayed as if it is because of the Israelis, and then you'd get what you want. You know, just keep on suffering, keep seeing your friends and family die, as this will help you kill as much Jews as your leadership aims to do. And the thing is, Palestinians are people who bought into this ideology, volitionally chose it. This is not an ethnicity. It's not like people was born into this ethnicity and it's in their blood. It's people volitionally choosing this evil. And when somebody chooses such evil, he is a criminal. Okay, you got to understand, this is a criminal movement. And those people chose this, and they are cheering, and they have cheered on October 7th on the massacre because that's exactly what they wanted. And they are now pissed off, and they are protesting against Hamas because they want to get more food of the humanitarian aid get into the hands of Hamas. But none of those protesters are rejecting the idea of destroying Israel. None of them are rejecting the idea that their political movement urges them to live the most horrible life ever, so they get the mercy of the Western world and weaponize it against Israel. And this is the movement. So my terms are, when I talk about these people, I say the people that hold the ideology of Palestinism, because this is what they are. They are Arabs around the world, like in the Emirates and in other places, who are willing to have at least a normalization with Israel. Islam is a religion and a political movement aims at destroying the West. At least this is the current manifestation of Islam as a religion. I don't care what the book says, it doesn't matter. This is the current manifestation of Islam as a religion and a political movement. And the worst variation is Palestinism. When October 7th happened, early in the morning, the mosques all over Gaza used their speaker, the religious authority within Palestinism, and says, go to the settlements, cross the border, and take over the houses. And thousands of those non-involved people choose to get in and rape and murder and massacre and go into homes of Jews, like Palestinian mothers came to a home that was just being ransacked with bodies laying on the floor and blood, and sat on their couch and opened Netflix. And this is real. Like the mentality, okay, this is ours. That's great that those people were killed and murdered. Let's go sit and watch Netflix now. Like this is madness. And I forgot where I was at because I was trying to get to a point, but this is so disgusting.
Well, I can circle back to you in a second, but one thing I want to expand on what you said is sort of this ideology of Palestinianism and this idea of Palestinians sort of, as people try to say, are and sort of some sort of ethnic group. And ask yourself a question. Is there a single Palestinian that is a capitalist or that is calling for the existence of the Israeli state? There is not a single one. It's a united ideology because it's a political thing. People, you have Arabs, some people refer to Arabs within Israel proper as Palestinians, but the ones that the Arabs that are in Israel and refer to themselves as Palestinians, it's for ideological reasons. It's not because they somehow are more similar to the people in Gaza than the other Arabs inside of Israel. So it is an ideological thing. Again, think about Israel. There are Israelis calling for the destruction of Israel. There are no Palestinians calling for destruction of the sort of prospects of a Palestinian state, or for calling for peace, or for like having very opposite ideology than the rest of the group. Michael, yeah, what do you make of either the sort of the separation people try to make from Palestinians and Hamas, or sort of separately the way Palestinians are being used as sort of, this is just some sort of ethnic group, and what we do with ethnic groups, all of them deserve a state, even if it's genocidal, even if it's Islamic, even if it's on the scale of North Korea, Turkmenistan type of dictatorship.
Look, the whole thing has been engineered beautifully by the world, starting with the UN. Ironically, the UN got Israel off the ground and actually offered an Arab state at the same time, and the Arabs refused to take the state because they wanted a one-state solution. The notion that any of the Palestinians want a two-state solution is a joke. We know that over and over and over again. It's this whole notion of Palestinians, who are mostly Jordanians and some Egyptians. It's absurd. But I don't even think you need to go to North Korea. And I've said this on the show before. I think we need to stop using kind of outlandish notions of ethnic groups and what they deserve, and just simply say, if the Palestinians deserve their own area because they're a different ethnic group, then the American Indians need to take back over most of North America. Full stop. And obviously that's not anybody, no one who has half a brain, or maybe if you have less than that, you would suggest it.
Well, we are talking about supporters of Hamas. They are usually not known for having a fully...
Right. But you can find crazies in America who pretend that we should give back the land to the American Indians and so on, Native Americans, whatever. I mean, you can always find crazy people. But it's obviously an absurd notion. It doesn't happen anywhere else in the world where ethnic groups get to do whatever they want. I mean, look what's going on in Syria. The Druze are being ethnically destroyed. The world watches. You don't see any protests at any American or any other colleges about this. Nobody cares, except, frankly, the Israelis who defended the Druze in Syria. It just doesn't happen. This whole thing is manufactured all the way up to UNRWA, which is the largest waste of money and the largest transfer of do-gooder tax dollars over to a known terrorist organization to teach how to slaughter Israelis. And the whole thing, I think the fundamental problem in the West is that Israel engages in these rather academic discussions of the whole thing instead of saying, We are going to annihilate those people who call for our destruction. There is a charter, the Palestinian Hamas charter exists. It calls for the destruction of Israel. From the river to the sea is the destruction of Israel. We are not going to wait until more of our people are murdered. Enough have been murdered by, never mind October 7th, 2023, but even before that, enough Israelis have been murdered by Hamas that we are going to annihilate those who would kill us. And that should be the major argument back to everybody. And until someone can answer the question of how do you allow a country who exists to annihilate you to sit on your border and fire missiles at you every day, and that's okay. If that's okay with someone, because it's clearly okay with most of the Western countries that we can fire missiles into Israel all the time, that's okay, we should put up with it, then we don't have a discussion and we're done. We in Israel who want to live are going to annihilate those people who would see us dead. That's the end of the discussion. It doesn't have to get any more complicated than that. When Hamas changed the charter to we agree to live peacefully next to Israel, we acknowledge its existence, its right to exist, its actual existence, and we're going to leave them alone, then maybe we could have a different discussion. That will not ever happen. Hamas exists, as Yar said very nicely, Hamas exists for one simple reason, to destroy Israel. They even say it, but we keep talking about it.
Well, since you mentioned Hamas, I think we have also official statement from Hamas saying they were just about to make a final agreement. They were just about to reach something, but apparently Netanyahu is the one who doesn't want to make an agreement. And as much as I would like to think that nicely of Netanyahu, that he wouldn't want to surrender to Hamas, the fact is that we've seen agreements in the past. And I'm sure he would be quick enough to jump if there was one. Hamas has also declared that the Gaza Strip will not surrender and the campaign will be tough and exact a heavy price from Israel and the IDF. I think on.
Well, I'm glad they're recognizing Israel.
Well, yeah, now that I'm reading it, maybe it's a misspelling. Don't they usually refer to it as Zionist entity, or is that
Yeah,
just,
they probably said like the original Arabic statement was probably like the Zionist entity or whatever. Just funny to read it that way.
Yeah, I mean, but to sort of separately bring up, since I'd like to also cover some of the reactions. So we had very quickly EU jumping on this. They've said that this decision to take over Gaza City must have consequences for EU-Israel relations, said EU Council President Antonio Costa. He also said that Israeli government should reconsider. Now, quote, not only does this decision violate the agreement with the EU announced by the High Representative on July 19, but also undermines the fundamental principles of international law and universal values. Yeah, do you want to take a guess of what kind of universal values are they supposed to be?
What universe are we referring to?
Well, I'd like to first address to Michael's point regarding the right for self-determination of a nation. Isn't this a beautiful concept? Well, I see it as an extremely, it lies on extremely evil and racist premises, and I'm going to break it down for you. So state rights is a secondary concept, which means it does not exist by itself. It stems from a primary, and the primary is the essence, is the cause, and it is the more important thing. The primary in regard to state rights and to rights of nations, right of ethnicities, etc., the primary here is individual rights. States are made of individuals. Ethnicities are made of individuals. There is no collective consciousness. There is an individual consciousness. There is an individual body, and they build all of those other things. They build society. They build states. They build nations. Treating people as ethnicities leads to evil. in a sense, in a primary sense. When you say it first is the ethnicity, then is the individual, you will eventually get to evil. And we see it in dictatorship, tyrannical regime, communist regime, race theories, whatever. All of those collective consciousness kind of ideas. And why am I saying this? Because when people call for the self-determination of Palestinians, they're basically saying the group in this sense is more important than the nature of what the individuals are doing. And by calling for a state for Palestinians based on quote unquote ethnicity, although Palestinianism is not an ethnicity even, the ethnicity is Arab, Palestinianism is a movement to destroy Israel. But still, let's, for the sake of argument, what's the problem? The problem is that every Palestinian entity, either in Gaza, Judea and Samaria, every time they were given independence, and by the way, also Palestinian movements around the world, in the Middle East, in Lebanon, in Tunisia, in Jordan, it always, this is the nature of the movement, it always leads to a tyrannical regime. And nobody is talking about the ideology. Nobody is talking about the will for tyranny. And this is happening around the world. This is also true to other states where the West had problems. And you cannot say we give this ethnicity self-govern and we allow them via democratic means to become a tyrannical regime, and it's justified because they're an ethnicity. Individual rights come first. And a criminal, a thief can be a thief. He can steal stuff. A murderer can be murderer. In practice, it can happen, but they cannot do it by right. A nation can establish a tyrannical regime, and it happens all the time, but they cannot do it by right. A nation, a group of people has no right to install a tyrannical regime. And the Western world keep justifying the worst dictatorship under the supposed moral claim of self-determination of a nation is pure evil. And this evil is currently being performed against Israel, calling Israel to give away land to this evil ideology to establish a tyrannical regime that is self-destructive, gets aid from the world, and then uses those resources, those unearned resources, by the way, to commit to the destruction of Israel. The people in Gaza has got water pipes from the European Unions and other entities, probably also American taxpayers, and they took those pipes and turned them into missiles fired in Israel. This is the nature of the movement. The whole thing with the point of the self-determination of nations is a secondary excuse built upon broken morality, and it's just plain evil disguised as good. But it sounds so beautiful. You know, every nation has a right for self-determination. This is so beautiful. It makes you feel so well when you hear it. It makes you feel so virtuous. It's great. It's great for virtue signaling. But in fact, this is not a primary. The primary is individual rights, and you cannot sacrifice individual rights for any nation. And this is also a very racist idea. It is okay when people persecute each other. It's okay when people are living in a horrible tyranny as long as the evil dictator is in the same race of its subject. But when Israel is giving individual rights and property rights to Arabs under its control, it's extremely evil because the leader is Jewish. Oy vey.
Yeah, and to sort of bring up another big thing that is happening is the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has announced that he would be stopping the weapons exports to Israel that could be used in Gaza. Now, this is not a similar story to the UK when like UK said they would like pause it and it was like 0.2% of like things were coming from UK. Germany is a big exporter of arms, and Israel gets a substantial amount of its arms from Germany. So, I mean, Michael, what is the motivation on this? What is this supposed to motivate? Then surrender.
Honestly, I have no idea. I honestly have no idea, especially Germany, which has generally been more positive with Israel than France. Certainly, I mean, Saudi Arabia is more positive with Israel than France. And more than the UK. I don't know. I don't know if this is posturing. The details of what will be transferred and what not will be, of course, a secret. No one will know if any of this is really true, even. Just like I think one of the Eastern European countries said they're going to stop all exports to Israel, even though, or weapons exports to Israel, even though they don't get any weapons. They don't give any weapons or sell any weapons to Israel. I don't know what Germany's thinking. I will say on the UK front, that Israel did a very nice job, I think, counter-threatening publicly to stop all sharing of intelligence information. And look, it's only a matter of time until there's another Islamic attack in Europe. I mean, we had plenty of train bombings for a long time in Spain, in the UK, and so on. We have car rammings and so on. It's only a matter. Terrorists don't change their spots and go get a tech education so they can become electricians or computer engineers or something. They like to be terrorists. They want to terrorize. Israel obviously has one of the greatest spying and secret services around, and you would think that the UK would be smarter. I was thrilled to see Israel actually stand up to this crap. But Europe in general is not Israel's friend. And it is truly remarkable to me. So none of us can figure out motivations. I wasn't aware that the Muslim population in Germany was sufficient to warrant a stupid comment like that. And one last point I'll make is, when Israel went into Khan Yunis and our then Vice President Kamala Harris said that she had studied the map and this was going to be a disaster, and it wasn't. It wasn't a disaster. No, fact. Sorry.
In Rafah, she learned the maps of Rafah.
Oh, Rafah. Sorry. Yes, I thought it was also. You're right, Rafah. And she had studied the map, and it was going to be a disaster, and it wasn't. In fact, hostages were rescued, and it was many Hamas terrorists were killed, which is exactly the goal of the war. I fail to understand what this new wave of baloney is, except for the fact that it's all pomp and circumstance. It's all posturing from everybody. It's posturing on the part of Israel. Finish the damn job. I think the map you showed, Yar and Daniel, was terrific. Finish the job. Do what you need to do. And obviously this could have been done in 6 days. Christ, Israel took out Iran in a few days. Iran had nothing after the first 24 to 48 hours this time around. It had very little after the first wave of Israeli attacks, when all the air defenses, or most of the air defenses in Tehran, were destroyed in the first round of Israel attacks. And of course, Israel didn't follow up, mostly because it didn't have any backing to do so, because God forbid you finish the job. So I honestly don't know, and I don't think any of us will know what the heck is going through these politicians' mind. What is very clear is that the quote world's opinion, they're on the wrong side of history, period. There is nothing good that has come out of any of the Islamic regimes in the Middle East, or any Islamic regimes anywhere. At best, these are neutral countries, at best. And even with Qatar, which is not a neutral country, or I should say with the UAE and Bahrain, and these are countries that have, joined the Abraham Accords. Obviously, Qatar has not, so my apologies. But Bahrain and UAE have joined the Abraham Accords, and they get along. But they're not contributing anything great to the world. They're getting along with the world. They've agreed to put up with the West for the moment. And they've agreed that the money coming in from tourism and so on are very nice. And that it's nice to be able to fly through these places and stop there if you want to. But people are on the wrong side of history. And I really shudder to imagine if we had behaved this way during World War II, we, the Allies, had behaved this way during World War II, where we'd be all speaking German and Japanese. It is appalling what is going on in the world. And last point I'll make is it stems from the education. And it stems from what Yar mentioned was that what's being taught in schools right now is that if a group of people have an opinion, no matter how wrong or despicable that opinion is, it's okay. And Barack Obama taught us all that there's nobody good and nobody evil. It's all relative, and everybody has a point. I'm sure if Barack Obama was around when Hitler was there, he would say Hitler had a point, because that was his philosophical stance. And this is where it stems from. And I think until we start teaching our kids about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and respect for individual rights, which the three I just talked about, we are in deep trouble. Humanity will take 3 steps back after all of the progress.
Yeah, and I mean, just one quick comment on Gaza, because I remember visiting Six-Day War Museum in Jerusalem, and Gaza was taken like an afternoon, like in half a day. Now, to be a little bit more fair to the IDF, Egypt had pretty much no forces, almost no forces in Gaza, so it's a bit easier to go like just through if your goal is somewhere else. But still, 2 years or coming up to 2 years is way too long. And again, when it comes to, I think there was one more point I wanted to make. When it comes to sort of, two men. Well, let's actually. Somebody in the chat says, release the sausages, and let's hear from the person who said this beautiful statement, Keir Starmer. He misspoke when he talked about the hostages, but why would he remember that? He recently today has said the Israeli government's decision to further escalate its offensive in Gaza is wrong, and we urge it to reconsider immediately. This action will do nothing to bring an end to this conflict or to help secure the release of the hostages. It will only bring more bloodshed. And I would disagree with the idea that this will not bring end to this conflict. And if bloodshed is what it takes, then that's what you do in a war.
Well, if I can interrupt real quick, what's amazing about that statement is since every ceasefire attempt has failed, he provides zero alternative to how they are going to get the hostages back. Everything that's been, Netanyahu puts up an idea, none of us particularly, I don't think we like it much on the show, or at least the details, but Starmer has no answer except to leave the hostages in place and keep talking, which is absurd.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, any sort of negotiations are already giving into the idea. It's basically saying a terrorist organization, or a government for that matter, can go in, kidnap citizens of a different country, and then negotiate and get their own killers back. Again, when it comes to the negotiations, it's not like Hamas is talking about, all right, we'll settle down, we'll stop it. No, they're saying, okay, give us our terrorists back. We want another chance so we can try to do it again. They're not asking for some peace activists to come back. Oh, give us the Palestinians that you've arrested, without charge for wanting a peaceful 2-state solution. No, they want killers back. This is people who they are calling for the release of. And with people like Marwan Marguti, they don't even have to be Hamas. Killing Jews is enough. They can even be part of Fatah. And that's acceptable. So yeah, I'm glad Hamas is trying to mend the schism between Fatah and Hamas by uniting them for killing Jews. You sent me a map. I'm not sure if you still want to show it.
We don't have to. Just to on the point of the Israeli occupation in the '67 war in comparison to today's, but it's not necessary. I actually have another point that I think is very important.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so I want to talk about emotionalism, and I want to talk about it in the context of those protests that Michael was mentioning. And the war today is driven by protest. We can see it in climate activism, in protest against Israel, in parades, and this is a bad thing. This is a bad thing. You see, intellectual discourse should be done rationally. The points should be brought up in public and then answered, and should be a discourse if there's like two opposing views or whatever, trying to find the truth, trying to find what's right. You should talk about it peacefully. Protest in a democracy, at least, is just unnecessary. It disrupts civil order. It is violence. It is very bad. And the reason for the success and frequency of such protests is even worse. And the reason is an epistemological view called emotionalism. Epistemology is the science of knowledge. And there is the objectivist approach that says be objective, observe the facts, use reason, all right? Base your knowledge in a non-contradictory way, think about the context and base everything on the observed facts and reality, or at least a logical abstraction that stems from the facts of reality. Emotionalism says, if you feel it really strong in your heart, it's true. As if your emotions either shape reality or get a unique connection to learn reality. As if you feel something, it must be true and must align with the facts of reality, and no thought is needed. And protests take this emotionalist premise and breed it with collectivism. Why? Because the implicit premise of a strong protest is, oh my God, so many people feel this so hard, so they must be right. All those people feel this way. There is like a strong collective emotion. It must be right. And the thing is, the fact that those protests are successful teaches us that emotionalism is very strong in the Western world today. And that's a horrible thing, because people are giving up using their mind and instead are just looking for whatever is the most emotional thing that people feel the most and adopt it as facts and as knowledge. And that's horrible. And that's one of the reasons for the rise in anti-Semitism. You know, they're being shown a fabricated picture of starving child, and they feel this is horrible, and they're right, this is indeed horrible, but they don't look at the facts, they don't look at the context, they don't look at the ideological and political movement of Palestinianism that led to it. They ignore the context of Israel defending itself and having a moral right to do that. And they see the starving baby, they see the protest, and in the protest, people feel and scream, this is the fault of Israel, and that's enough for them. And that's horrible. Emotionalism in this sense, in the epistemological, in the way it comes as if it's more like has a higher hierarchical level than knowledge, is a horrible view. And we see protests all the time. And listen, this guys, people talk about process with some sort of a romanticism. Yes, democracy. People get to express their feelings. Like, do it in an orderly fashion. Talk about it. Write about it. Argue about it. Discuss about it. Debate. Why go on the street, destroy civil order, and demonstrate to everyone that you feel it the hardest, as if it matters? And this is just, and Ayn Rand wrote about it in the 60s. She wrote about it in 1965 in an article called Cashing In, the Student Rebellion, and in many other articles. And if you find this thing interesting, I recommend you to go read it.
Yeah, I mean, this, you said debate, and when I think of all the debates I've seen between Israeli and or sort of pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian representatives, I mean, I understand the sort of, I mean, they are doing the same thing when it comes to debates. It's the same kind of emotionalism, because there is no rational argument for the Palestinian side. There is like if I wanted to like steelman this, no, I cannot. So I won't even attempt, because it truly is impossible. Again, when you are defending Palestinians, you are defending the culture they are representing. You cannot just defend this kind of like right to self-determination, or sort of like you think Israel is doing bad things, without seeing the other side of, okay, what does the other side lead to? In a similar way, you cannot decide any conflict without, or sort of try to defend one side without getting all of its representatives. It's like listening to communists and sort of, and in their mind, this communism is like, the communism is when good things happen. So this is what you have to argue with. And it's like, no, we have to deal with things on the ground. We have to deal with things like Soviet Union. This is what you represent. So when you look at Palestinians, we cannot think of, well, this is the people that are good. No, we are dealing with Palestinians on the ground, and they are fundamentally not good. It's very deeply irrational and evil culture currently. And you cannot support Palestinians without supporting that kind of culture. With that, Michael, any last thoughts from you, and where can people find you?
Yeah, look, again, I don't think these issues are fundamentally that complex. I think Yar said it well, and I agree. You have to start with the basic tenets of individualism, which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And until any time you deviate from that or try to start in the middle with some grandiose notion that we can all just be communists, somehow it's all going to, each according to his ability because they want to be nice to everybody, to each according to their need, and we know need becomes infinite. It's absurd. It's not even a little bit. It's been tested over and over again, and if we did medicine the way these sociology people talk about communism, we would have dead patients right and left. We'd still be using leeches.
Well, that wasn't true medicine. So
What?
if we try, that wasn't true medicine. So if we try now,
it was touted as medicine. And yes, for those of you who are smart, a little bit smart aleck, yes, there are a few conditions we still do use leeches. A few, not generally. That's not how we treat most patients. Anyhow, you know what I'm trying to say. This is not that difficult. Please don't be bamboozled by pundits and experts and these professors who are despicable people, by the way. Most of them, by the way, are endowed by capitalists. If you look at their chairs at the universities, those are capitalists, and they are teaching anti-capitalism and so on. So please don't be bamboozled by these folks. It's not that complicated. We have to get back to individual rights and the rights to life, liberty, property rights, and the pursuit of happiness. Michael Kaufman, and I'm on LinkedIn, 2Fs in Kaufman.
ER, any last thoughts from you, and where can people find you?
Yes, I'd like to clarify one thing about emotions, because I've been going really passionately against emotionalism, which I am. It's in the epistemological level, you cannot rely on emotions. I just want to clarify that emotions are a very important thing. They motivate us, they're rewarding us, and they give us immediate and effortless indications of our value judgment. But we cannot reverse the order. We first have to do proper value judgment. We first have to look at the facts and use reason to build our values and understand reality. And then we can also be passionate about it and be happy and rewarded when we are acting with rationality and being objective. The thing with emotionalism, it makes an abuse of emotions and makes people substitute their rational thought with blindly following emotions, and that's bad. So live a rational life, and it will very easily make you happier people. Blindly follow hate and mercy and collectivism and all of those emotions and make it the source of your knowledge, and you would have a very poor and dissatisfying life. That is my point. Now, regarding who I am and where you can find me, I am Iyar Reichel. I'm an associate of the Ayn Rand Center Israel. Please visit aynrand.org.il/about to learn about the Israeli Ayn Rand Center. They're doing a very important job. And I am a leading member of the Victory Now movement. We're working on a book in English and in Hebrew to present a plan for Israel's victory and to show the moral justification for it, which, as I say many times, the moral understanding of the situation, the proper moral understanding is the most important thing right now. It's what's missing in the world. People look at it with completely broken morality, which stops Israel from doing the right thing. So I think this is very important. Please visit www.victory.now to learn more, to support, and to sign up for the waitlist for the book. Thank you.
And Michael already had to run for his meeting, so it was great to have him on. Great to have you, ER, on as well. And with that, thank you guys thank you, ER, and thank you, Michael, who has left, for joining me on today's show. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of The Daily Objective.
And you can find Michael in LinkedIn.
Oh, he already mentioned that, but yeah.
Oh, perfect. I thought
yeah. And all the links are going to be in the description. So thank you again, and bye-bye.